Welcome to the Mad Love Your Life show. I'm Mary D, the Joy Catalyst, here to be your host and transformation guide. Mad Love is about the mad, making a difference, and love is what we serve up to live a delicious life. My intention is to help you spark new ideas, break limiting beliefs, and align with your deepest dreams and desires. Get ready for laughter, inspiration, and finding your inner roar in every show. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you are having a beautiful week and living your best, most fully expressed and delicious life. I am packing for a trip to Damanhur, which is a 48-ish year old spiritual community that sits in the north of France and north of Italy, not France. And if you you know. And if you don't, you can actually hop on to Gaia TV and watch the documentary about this magical community. I am very excited to bring in the energy of it, to be in the energy of it. It's a really mystical place. And of course, the love and connectedness that unfolds at these in-person retreats. And I will fill you all in when I get back. And speaking of connection and community, my guest today can be found supporting magical events as well. And we're going to talk about the magic she brings to the world through holistic practices. Sepideh is a passionate advocate and has a pioneer spirit for holistic wellness. She is the founder of Dawn of Earth, of the Dawn of the Earth. And it's a unique platform that combines somatic breathwork with custom-made tea blending. And with the Dawn of the Earth, she has created an approach to wellness by integrating the power of somatic breathwork with the therapeutic benefits of tea. And she is also a recognized member of the Breath Initiative at the Global Wellness Institute. Through her involvement with this initiative, she educates and impacts others by sharing the power of breathwork to empower the body and nervous system. Breathwork is known to have a profound impact on our well-being. It can help reduce stress, increase energy levels, improve focus, and enhance overall vitality. And Sepi's guidance in breathwork practices allows individuals to tap into an inner elevated state of being. Through those conscious breathing techniques, individuals can cultivate a deeper sense of self-awareness and they can connect with their inner selves, which really helps to release physical and emotional tension. It promotes relaxation and, again, reduces overall stress levels. The integration of these practices allows individuals to access deeper layers to unlock their potential, to release emotional blockages, and to cultivate a profound sense of self-awareness in their personal and professional life. She is a visionary leader who understands that wellness is an ongoing journey rather than a destination. And with her profound understanding of interconnectedness behind and between the mind and body and the soul, she's dedicated her life to making a positive impact in the world. Her mission is to leave others moved, touched, and inspired by connecting them to their own inner compass. So, Sepideh, thank you for being alive. Thank you for the work that you bring into the world and share with others. It's great to have you on the
Thank
show
you
today.
so much for having me. It's an
Of
honor,
course.
and it's
Of
so
course.
amazing to be in your presence. You and I have a long history of events and conferences, and just seeing that how you have been expanding and growing. And, it's so remarkable and incredible to watch your expansion and the way you're contributing to the planet and
Oh.
humanity. It's truly beautiful. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I think we always knew we had these layers of connection that got to unfold as our relationship has continued over the years. So I think it's really beautiful that we've landed here today, and I'm super excited to interview you today, to share you with other listeners and guests, and just to put your work out into the world because it's amazing. So with that,
Amen.
I want to dive right in, and the kickoff question for you is, what do you know now that you wish you had known before you got into this body of work?
The biggest thing that I would say is understanding the relations with our nervous system. The more I do the work, the breath work, this is specific breath work, it's called somatic, and soma means body. It's all about our relationship with our nervous system, the way we show up with our nervous system, the way we connect with our nervous system. And there were so many questions around me when I was learning this modality, and always anything that I've ever learned in my life and contributed to my work or to my practices, it always started within me. That there I had I'm just always a curious learner. I'm always like wanting to learn more, that how the mind, body, and soul are connected and how it works. So I wish I knew the importance of like taking care of our nervous system when we're having those stressful moments. We get the stressful email, the phone calls, the events that we conduct, the presentations. Our nervous system is always like in that state of like fight, flight, or freeze, that it impacts our physical health. And the way it happens internally with our body, it's like pouring hot water in your nervous system.
Mm.
So the more I learn about the power of nervous system and how relaxation really matters in that process, and a lot of illnesses and diseases are the manifestation of how the body is just living in that fight, flight, or freeze for too long, and it's not decompressing, relaxing, going back to parasympathetic to heal. So the cells start shifting and the body starts shifting, and all these illnesses starts happening in our body
Mm.
and in our mind. So in my personal opinion, we're living in mental wellness crisis. And a lot of that, it goes back to the amount of stress that we're consuming in daily basis. And I
Mm.
wish I knew all of that. I would have taken care of my nervous system way better. But I'm very grateful that I am where I am today, that I've learned whatever I needed to learn to take care of my anxiety, my depression, and also
Mm.
like to be able to release that through breath work so I can share my work with others and help them to take care of their nervous system in a healthier way.
Oh, I love that. I just graduated from I think I told you this, a trauma informed somatic coaching class. And I've got a certification now, and I'm really looking forward to adding it to my practice. And one of the things that was beautiful was just learning about the neuroscience and also the energetics of like where trauma is stored and how we can release what's happening in our body, and oftentimes that movement, right, just moving things out of our body, we're literally doing that. And when you talk about breath work, that's been a practice of mine for many years now, and I'm definitely a fan. If any of you have not done breath work, then this is a really great like introduction for you, an invitation for you to start thinking about what that could be for you, that maybe that's a practice you can add in because it's got so many great benefits. But before we head into more of the somatic side of it, I want to ask you about the tea side of it, because tea is one of my favorite things. I'm not a coffee drinker, for people that know me. I love tea, and I know you have a history with it. So let's talk about tea and how you integrate that with the breath work and the somatic therapy.
So, Dawn of the Earth was born during COVID. As an event
Mm.
planner, the events were shut down, and I was very in this place of confusion. I left corporate America, left the hotel side, started working as a corporate event planner. I was very excited for that journey. COVID happened, and all the events were shut down. And it took me a minute to just recenter myself and reground myself and reconnect with what really matters to me. And coming from Iran, I grew up around herbs and tea and knowing all the benefits of that how it just impacts your health and your body. And Sepideh in English means dawn. So I called
Mm.
my sister, who's an artist in France, and I said, I want to launch my tea company and I want to call it Dawn of the Earth. And she designed my logo. That's how literally it started. And I curate custom made tea blends. And when I lived in Vegas at the time, I still am an EFT practitioner. So every time I had clients, I was serving tea at the end of my sessions. And my tea became so popular. And I decided to create my tea company. And when I was designing my company, there were three things that truly, truly mattered to me: to be sustainable, eco-conscious, and purpose-driven. So I
Mm.
started working with local farmers from different parts of the world to support globally. For every 10 tea that I sell, I plant a tree to give back to the community. I work with farmers that they are all my herbs and tea are ethically sourced, so there's no toxic, no chemicals, and it's such a beautiful journey to just be around all these communities that, online, like I find them online or through some of my contacts in the event industry. And it's so beautiful that they're part of this growth that I started that during COVID, end of 2020. And they write letters to me and they thank me for contributing to their family or to their community. It's just so beautiful and it really
Mm.
enriches my heart and soul because that's what I wanted to create, something that it was meaningful, it was purpose driven. And then, like you mentioned, when I was doing my meditations, I had so many body movements that I wasn't sure what it was. And sometimes I
Mm.
used to freak out about it. I'm like, what is happening to me? So the curiosity again led me to a place of learning about somatic breath work. And I took the course just for myself to just learn about this and just being able to help myself throughout my meditations. And I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with the transformation that this specific breath work has been causing and just having like this transformation in my cells and in my body. And I transitioned my tea company to a wellness company as I incorporated somatic breath work and emotional freedom techniques.
Beautiful, beautiful. I definitely want to talk about EFT because I think that not everyone knows what EFT is.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that. What is EFT and how is it used?
EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques or tapping. And it basically, we tap on meridian points in our body. And the reason EFT is very powerful is because that we're able to rewire the subconscious with positive and negative statements. So every time I work with a client, I take some time to just learn about what they're going through. What are the thinking, like what are the negative thinkings they have? What are the positive thinkings they have? And I customize like all those like practices. I write like the script for them when we're working because it really needs to resonate with them. That's
Mhm,
like the integrity part of my work that I really want to make sure that the verbiages are, it's not like rehearsed with someone else. It's
mhm.
something that they can connect with. And we start tapping on different meridian points in our body. We start from here, like between the eyebrows, and then the side of the eye, under the nose, chin, collarbone, under the arm, and top of the head. And we say positive and negative statements that it helps to rewire and rewrite the subconscious. So people that they are dealing with addiction, I would say EFT is an amazing way to release that from your body cells because these are all belief systems at the end of the day. And I like to
Mm,
let people and my client know that you're not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. It's just like belief systems. It's like the way that our body has been wired to show up in a certain way and cope with trauma, anxiety, and depression. These are all coping mechanisms. And we are able to rewire that through these modalities because these activations, these pressure points, it activates certain areas in our body that we're able to release and place it with positivity and teach the body how to operate from a place of calmness.
I love
It's
that. I
really
love that.
powerful.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I was even interested in the work was because I watched a family member of mine who was carrying some trauma and she went and got coaching and that those were the methodologies that the coach used where it was like touching your body, not just, talking things out, but it was the act of touching and that act that really helped her hone in on where some of those sources were coming from and release it, right? And release those things. And it's a guided process, which I think is really beautiful because so many people, I think if you're starting, let's say with meditation as a practice, it's which is a wonderful practice, that there's a beautiful intersection that happens when you can also have someone that gives you guidance through, like, what are the positive ways to create reframes, what are the beliefs that may be holding us back, because I think that's the other part too, is sometimes people don't always know, right? They can't always pinpoint what exactly some of those things are. So I want to talk more about that. We're going to go to a quick little commercial break. After that, we'll be back to talk more with Sepideh, and we're going to talk about ways that you can release some of these things in your life.
Yes.
𝐦𝐨𝐬𝐤𝐿, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zoric, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zoric has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
All right, we are back with my guest Sepideh. And Sepideh, when we talk about this body work and we talk about helping people move through emotions, move through belief processes, talk to me about how that even shows up. Like, how are you finding that these people even show up in your life so that you get to do this work?
A lot of times it just happens through word of mouth, or like I'm having an authentic, organic conversation with somebody that I share about my journey and they just get interested. I'm part of so many different communities like meditations, yoga, event industry. I speak at different conferences, like I spoke at MPI, I spoke at 𝐦𝐨𝐬𝐞. Like, people just learn about the work. Smart meetings. A couple months ago, I did the health and wellness with smart meetings that I had the whole tea lounge, and then people were learning about, my herbs and my tea. And then I spoke about the power of somatic breathwork on the panel also. So all these opportunities, the more we educate others, people understand that there are ways that they can tap into their power of their being. And
Mm,
also, like, it's really, I get goosebumps after every conversation that I have when people open up and they share what they're going through. A lot of people are going through a lot of physical illnesses, and
yeah,
they don't know how to manage that emotionally. It's very overwhelming for them. And they're
right.
always looking for holistic and other ways to be able to help themselves. So I see myself, I don't see myself as a healer, I don't see myself as a shaman, as a guru. I don't associate with those titles. I see myself as a guide who's able to hold space for others to come and feel safe, and I would just hold that space for them and guide them through the process and connect them to their inner medicine, because I truly believe that we are our own healers. We have the
Mm,
power within us. We just don't know how to connect with that. So the more we talk about it and empowering others, that you are able to tap into your breath, or by tapping on certain meridian points in your body, you're able to release your anxiety and depression. That is somehow that I see myself to empower others to tap into themselves. And then like people start talking about it. I mean, I would just say I'm very fortunate that I have an amazing community and they believe in my work and they believe in me. And I do live in integrity. I walk the talk. It's not only for me talking about these things, I practice it deeply in my core. I personally check myself, because sometimes in this work, people get their ego gets in the way, and we're here
mm,
for a bigger purpose, to learn and understand that we're here to serve the community. We're here to serve people, and that is my job, that is my responsibility, to protect that trust and create that safety for them to come back. And it's all about
mm,
that. When you feel safe, you always want to go back. And when you don't feel safe, you want to find some other places to go and connect. And this, as a society, I think we have a lot of work to do to create that safe environment in our friendships, in workplaces, in our relationships, in our relationship with our parents, the children, like all
mm.
of that together, it all goes back to safety and trust.
Yep.
And as a practitioner, I really take that seriously. And I'm very grateful that I have that trust that my clients just put in with me and help me to guide them through their process.
So good, so good. Yeah, and for those of you listening, if any of this is resonating with you, one of the things that you can kind of go, "Oh, like that could be, this could be me. I don't know if I have some of these belief systems, but I know I have anxiety," or, if any of those things register as we're talking about safety and trust, a lot of this goes back to even being your childhood. Think about, did your caregiver, whoever that was or whoever they were, when you went to them, did you feel like you could trust them? And did you feel safe? Because these are really important pieces of understanding why we show up in the world like we do. Oftentimes, if we didn't grow up in an environment that was safe, where our safety was threatened, whether that was our physical safety, whether that was just our overall well-being. We actually hear statistics today, and I unfortunately don't know what they are right now, but I know that they're really high in terms of how many kids actually are still hungry, like still going, they have families, they go home, but they are hungry, like they're just not taken care of. No one is there ready to give them a snack or packing them a lunch. They're really sort of expecting their kids to fend for themselves, and it could just be their circumstances, it could be the education system of the parents. There's so many factors that wave into this. If you grew up with parents of addiction, then perhaps you didn't feel safe in that environment. If you had an alcoholic mother or father or caregiver, and it didn't feel safe to go home because they would be verbally violent or physically violent, then you grew up in a time where you didn't feel safe, and that the body keeps score of. And so that's where these things
Yes.
show up later, and that's what Seppi is talking about being able to release some of these things. I want to talk, Seppi, a little bit more about the meridian lines of the body, because I think that is a new phrase for some people, and it's a new concept. People are like, what is a meridian line? What does that mean? For those of you that do acupuncture, you might also be a little more familiar, because acupuncturists actually, that's what they go by. That's where they're sticking those little pins in the meridian lines of your body. For some of you, you've heard my story around my wellness journey through breast cancer, and how my teeth are linked with the meridian lines of the body. And the tooth that I had a root canal on was on this right hand side, and it is linked to the breast. And it's exactly in line with where the actual cancer was growing in my breast. And so it's a really interesting correlation. And in the holistic world, a holistic practitioner would tell you, as they told me, that when I had that root canal on this right hand side, that I had a 98 percentile chance of, if I had a cancer, that's where it was going to show up, and they weren't wrong. So when it happened to me and I got the diagnosis, it was so fascinating because I actually called my dentist first. She was actually my first phone call, and that was her saying to me, "Hey, like, this is absolutely the tooth that is alongside your breast meridian." And it was actually two teeth that I have side by side that are both related to the breast meridian. So her comment to me was that your chance of recurrence is actually relatively high because you have two teeth that have been root canaled on that side. And I was like, ooh, that's fascinating. So it was a matter of, in terms of getting well, it was getting those root canals cleaned up, letting those heal and open, and then allowing my body to do the same. And then the cancer shrunk. It was shrinking when they went in for surgery, and so it was great because I got reclassified in my diagnosis because it was a smaller cancer now. But now I'm healed. It's been almost 7 years, so excited about that.
Amazing.
But it was such a great education around thinking about the body and the energy lines of the body. So maybe talk a little bit about meridian lines and what you know about them, and let's give some folks an education that don't know about meridian lines today.
I always go back to the intelligence of the body. Our body is
Mm.
so intelligent. And, these are all the signals that we get. When one part of the body is struggling to be in a certain space and something is just not right, like your tooth was a great example, it speaks to other parts of the body and we start seeing symptoms that it needs to be done. So necessarily, like the breast cancer is not the breast that it's going through, that there are other signals that's been sent from other parts of the body. And the best way to explain that, when we get a foot massage, when we get the foot massage, I always feel like these deep relaxations in my shoulders. There are so many areas and pressure points. These are all pressure points that they're able to release the pressure or tension in our body. And when we are working through the subconscious, these areas that I mentioned earlier, like between the eyebrows, under the nose, the chin, collarbone, all of that, they're designed in a certain way based on the positive and negative statements that we create in that modality to rewire the nervous system and also the subconscious, because they're all connected at the end of the day. Like all these pressure points are connected and they speak to one another. So it's really important that how we're, for example, when I am working with somebody who has gambling problem, alcoholics, addictions, overeatings, all of that, it really matters that when they're tapping, for example, on their collarbone, what statement they're saying, because that is connected to another part of their body that they can release whatever is sitting there that's holding them back to really be in their full expression and authentic self. So at the end of the day, this is the most important thing that we need to understand about our body, that our body is intelligent and everything is connected. Everything is connected. If you have a back pain, if you have a tight back, you can have pain in your knee, you can have pain in your ankle, you can have pain in your on your shoulder, you can have pain on your neck. It's not solely that area. It's like the connection that we always um ignore. A lot of times people ignore. And then when I have like a back pain, I go to see a doctor for my back. But I know for years and years and years in my career life, I've been wearing high heels, walking all these convention space, like I don't know, like for hours, like standing on my feet, not getting like taking care of my feet, like that led to a place of like having the knee issues and back issues and all of that. So what do I do to help myself? Again, I go back to the intelligence of the body and I work with like trigger release practitioner to release these areas of my body wherever there's tightness in my body. And guess what? When I have the back pain, she's not addressing my back. She's working on my hip. She's working on my thighs. She's working on my calf. There is, so like it's the upper back, it's lower back. They're all connected. They're like a family. They're not
Mhm. They
separated.
are.
So
Yes.
that's how I see it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's also news to a lot of people when they're having pain in their body, is to understand that, like, sometimes that pain in your knee is actually not the knee. And so people are trying to treat their knee because they think that's where it is. It's like, no, it actually could be your foot, it could be your gait, it could be you stepped off the sidewalk wrong and your rib is out. It's
It
this,
can be
the
your
body is
hip.
the structure. Totally. It can be so many things. And I work with a functional specialist who he's not a chiropractor. I don't even correctly even know what to frame him. I call him the I call him the
The
magic
magician.
man. Yeah, I know, because literally I go in and say, "Hey, this, I'm having pain in the shoulder," and then he works on everywhere except for the shoulder usually, and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden it's like it's gone. So it's really interesting to see how the body is so interconnected, and how when we think it's one thing, it's usually on the opposite side of whatever it is that we're touching, or that we think that it possibly could be. So I always think that that also is sort of an interesting dynamic around the body, and just how it works, and the intricacies of how it
fascinating.
wants to operate. Yeah, yeah. And one of the other things I'll say is, I remember being in a medicine ceremony, and I was speaking to my stomach, very specifically speaking to my stomach. And in speaking to my stomach, it was interesting because I felt like my body actually was talking back to me. Like it was a very real conversation around everything that was happening inside of my body. And I actually had this deeper appreciation for the intelligence of the body, and just like, wow, like I can be so grateful that my body wants to do what it's designed to do. Like, thank you, body, for digesting the normal way. Like, that this is what you do. Because I realize that there are people that walk around in the world whose digestive system is really messed up. And every time they eat, it's painful, or they're gassy, or they're bloaty. And like, we see these commercials and we think that these are just like the normal things of life, but I'm like, no, they actually don't have to be. Like, we are designed and made in a really beautiful, specific way, and how there's an entire ecosystem within our thing that we call a body. Like, the fact that we don't have to get up and think about breathing, right? I mean, breath work is a really intentional way to do things, but we don't actually have to think about breathing. When we're sleeping, we're not consciously like, "Oh, don't forget to breathe in and breathe out for the rest of the night until we wake up." Like, we just know, our body knows what to do. And even how when we have an injury, right? Like, just how the body wants to heal, like bones mend, muscles come back together, our skin, scabs over, and we might see a little scar, a little remnant from that healing, but the fact that the body can put itself back together again, is almost like its own glue in that sense, is super fascinating and super
It's
beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What would you say has been one of the biggest aha moments for you through your journey with this work? Like, what's been an impact that you can share with us, or a story around, the just the difference that it's made for you?
I will give you a recent one. I was having this pain in my back that it was so unbearable that I went to emergency room twice, went to urgent
Mm.
care 4 times. I've been visiting 5 different doctors. They couldn't figure out what it was. They misdiagnosed me with cancer. Yeah, I mean, you
Oof.
just name it. I went through, and then they came up with this terminal illness that they call that icy bladder. They said this is what's happening, but from UTI to icy bladder to having cancer to all kinds of things, right? And my doctor, he said, this is your life. For the rest of your life, you're going to be doing like bladder installations. And I listened to him because part of my brain was like, the doctor knows what he's doing. And then the other part was like, you've done all this work. What are you doing to yourself? And I let the doctor do his thing. Like, I did like maybe 4 sessions with my whatever, the bladder installation. And the very last session, I looked at him and I said, I'm not coming back. And he just looked at me and he was like, you need to continue this treatment. And I said, I'm not coming back. And before I would have that conversation, like a couple of days before that, I was really being conscious with my bladder, putting my hand on my bladder and just asking my body, what is it, what's there for me to connect with? Like, being conscious about the energy in that space, how I need to connect with, and what do I need
Mm.
to release. And the first thing that came up was fear. I was
Mm.
holding on to so much fear because my parents, they are in Iran at the moment, and there was a war happening between Iran and Israel. And And I was like panicking for my parents, and I'm like, oh my God, how are they gonna leave the country? I had like my nervous system was going through so much stress and pressure, and the
Mm.
fear hides in your body. It doesn't matter. Like that's where it was. That's where I had to really just bring consciousness and awareness and sit with it. So my doctor, I told him, I said, I'm going to a 4-day meditation retreat and I'm going to come back and I would be completely healed. I know that. And he laughed at me. He's like, you need to
Mm.
come back, Seppi. And I said, I'm not coming back. And I had, and these medicines that I've been, he's been treating me with, they're extremely expensive. So I gave him all the medicine back and I said, I'm donating this. Give it to whoever needs this medication because I'm not coming back. And he couldn't believe. He texted me that night and he said, sit with it. Sit with it. You need to come back for your next treatment. I'm like, I'm not coming back. So a week and a half ago, I went to a 4-day retreat and I meditated 4 to 6 hours every single day. And I sat with my bladder and I put my hand on my bladder and I spoke to my body. And I asked my body to help me to release this fear energy. And guess what? The pain is gone, sister. It's gone.
Mm. So good. So good.
It's unbelievable. Like, I'm very proud of myself for just trusting myself and listening to myself. Still, with all the work that I've done, we are so programmed and we're told that the doctors know better. And they do. In some cases, they do. But they couldn't figure out what was going on with me, and I became like, they started testing all these medications and 4 rounds of
Mm.
antibiotic and this and that, and I had to put my foot down and say, I'm taking the route that I know it serves my body, and I need to listen to my body. And it's gone. Like, I'm so grateful, and I'm
Yay.
so happy that I have no pain. It was just the fear in my body, and it was communicating to me, and I had to let that go.
Mm.
And
So good.
honoring this space, and it's like also a lot of emotional work, like honoring my parents' decisions in that space of like where they want to be, and my dad had to go through a surgery, they couldn't travel, there was a lot happening. And
Mm.
that part of me who wanted to control, I had to just release her and surrender
Mm.
to the experience, and just honor where they are in their lives and where I am in my life, and just being grateful. Just being
Mm.
grateful.
I love that. We are going to take another quick commercial break, but before we do that, when we get back, we are going to talk about this mind body connection and because there's so much to say about it, and I definitely have some comments on it. So we'll be right back.
Awesome.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
All right. Before the break, we were having a conversation around just the the body's ability to know what to do, and also our innate ability to sit with our own knowing around our treatment or our option to not do treatment, depending on, what a doctor says. And I think that this is, where I always want to give the caveat. I have doctor friends. I love all of you. You've been amazing on my journey, because it's true. Like, there's, the scientists of the world and the medical professions, they're in it. So they're seeing what's going on, and let's all be fair, they're practicing. They're practicing, and oftentimes they're not completely clear on what's going on, and so oftentimes they're also treating a particular thing, right? So if I'll give you a great example. My mom has Parkinson's, and it affects the left side of her body. And when she goes to the foot doctor, all he can do is treat the feet. And so her Parkinson's is from her body moving so much on that left side that whatever work he did on a bunion years ago is undoing itself. And so he, instead of saying, "Oh, wow, like maybe I should talk and collaborate with the Parkinson's doctor and we should figure out like how I, as a foot doctor, we can come together at this intersection because she's one whole body." But that doesn't happen. He can only show up and treat the feet. And that's all he does, is he only knows how to treat her feet because that's all he's got. And God bless him. That's what he went to school for. That's what he knows. And there's that. And then there's the part of going back to the cancer story that I was sharing with you about my own journey. Like, that was such a conflict, because I want to show up and I want to trust this practitioner who's telling me about what this cancer is, how they normally treat it, what are the statistics and numbers. But the problem I had was that I was also asking questions that they didn't have answers to, and that was strange to me. It was strange to me that they couldn't tell me about other 40-year-old women like me. So when I say like me, Asian American, 5'5", that like these are like little details that you would think would just naturally be collected amongst what's going on, and they really didn't have that information, or whoever has it isn't sharing it. So it's just a fascinating thing for me to also have to sit back and go, okay, what can I trust? And I just remember in my body feeling like, like, let's go work on what we know about teeth. And that was the very first thing that popped in my head, which is why my dentist was that first phone call. She was the one that I said, "Hey, I need some like guidance on this because I just got diagnosed with breast cancer." And for her to fill me in really gave me, it empowered me to say, "Oh, here's what my holistic doctor is saying, and then here's what the medical doctors are saying, and how can I know that the wisdom is within me to say, what is going to be best for me in my body, and knowing how my body works, and how things are functioning, and like how it all comes together, and what's my faith in this, right? Where does my faith also fall in line with this?" And I think that was that intersection of all of those three things was what empowered me to say, "You know what? I actually don't feel good about chemotherapy. I don't feel good about radiation. And I don't even feel good about taking this tamoxifen drug that they give pretty much everyone that comes out of breast cancer." And it just, none of it made sense for me in my spirit. And because it was unsettled in my spirit, I said, "This is not aligned with me." And it is everything in me. My own spirit is like, "Don't do it. Don't do it." And how often do we poo-poo our own inner guidance system because maybe, we're talking ourselves out of something, or we believe someone knows better for us. And so it was in this moment that I really got such clarity about being able to just listen to myself, to understand, to just tap in. And I feel like that's what you did when you sat in your meditation retreat, right? You tapped in and you talked to your body and connected with your body in a way of your body being able to come back and go, "Hey, yeah, like we got you, and we want you to be well. We want all of your functions to work just like they're supposed to." And also being able to say to yourself, what exterior things are showing up for me, right? Like the fear around your parents. And I think that's such a big one, and I want to circle back to that, which is our our fear, and then also sometimes how our fears are not necessarily someone else's fears. And I think this happens with parents a lot, right? Like for sure, my fears are not my mother's fears. And my mom is like, if I'm, going to the ocean, she's like, oh my gosh, you're swimming with sharks? Like, that's really dangerous. I'm like, yes. And people definitely do it all the time. I'm with people that I trust to lead me through this experience. And then afterwards, it's like, hi, mom, I'm still alive. Apparently, sharks don't like Thai food. So we're good there. So talk to me about, how did you figure out and tap into the fear portion of this? Like, how did it get clear for you that that's what was part of, what was creating the symptoms?
It always goes back to my conscious work and being conscious in my environment. And I have these rituals with myself in my morning and nights that I check in with me and say, how did you do today? And that simple question, it goes back to, how did I feel throughout the day? And the repetitive response that I was getting from myself was this fear of losing my parents. Like it was just unsettling worriness in my body that I was just so scared to lose my parents. And it in that space, I really had to sit with it. I really had to just face it because it was something that was not happening. I was overthinking it. I was overanalyzing it. I was already going 10 steps ahead, planning things that I was not supposed to plan and wanting to control. Like it is that part of me that wanted to control the situation. And I became this 5-year old who felt helpless in that situation, that I felt I can't do anything about this. My parents are not able to travel at the moment. The world is a mess and I need to accept it. And I was resisting to accept the situation. So I was fighting it. I was in this internal fight with what was in front of me. And this is a result of like me doing so much therapy and inner work and just not being afraid to talk about it and owning up my own feelings and my emotions. This is the place that this is a result of my work that I'm really proud of, that I can sit with me and say, what's holding you back to feel healthy again? What's holding you back to be your own full expression and not feeling helpless and get back to that space of like 5-year old that you feel helpless? And it came back to that place of like, I just don't feel safe in my body because I'm so afraid to lose my parents, and just connecting back to my body to make my body feel safe again. And again, like
Mm,
we talked about the safety, when the body doesn't feel safe, it goes back to a place of fight, flight, or freeze because it feels it's constantly threatened and it's in danger and it needs to protect itself. And that's how I felt during that 3 months. I was just living that fight, flight, or freeze, and it just led to this physical situation that I had to sit with it. I work with my acupuncture doctor who was helping me to release that emotional. I worked with some healers that they were helping me. I did ton of breath work, but mainly like sitting in that meditative state and just like allowing the receiving the downloads. Like you said, the body speaks to you. When we're so busy, we're doing 80,000 things during the day, we don't take a minute to pause and reset. The body has no space to communicate and let us know what's going on. And I would say we're very, as a collective society, we're very impatient with our bodies. We
mm.
want the healing quickly. We want the answer quickly. We want everything to be resolved quickly, not understanding that it takes time. We need to be patient with our body. And until the body feels safe, we're not going to get those responses or communications. But when we create that safe environment for our body to just feel relaxed and feel protected, then we would be able to receive whatever we need to receive and help ourselves.
Got
It's
it.
a
Got it.
relationship that we have with our body. What kind of relationship you have with your body? How do you parent your body? Like, are you sitting with your body in an environment that it's kind and safe and received? Or is it like, get better now? I don't have time for this because I have to go to this meeting and I have to talk to that person. Like, what do you choose in that space?
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that we all have choices. We all have choices in the matter for sure. All right. Well, we are going to talk a little bit more about choices and we're going to touch a little on some plant medicine right after this break.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
𝐦𝐨𝐬𝐬𝐿, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind sits birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorick, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorick has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Welcome back. So, Seppi, let's talk a little bit about how the wisdom of nature has been part of the journey, because I think that that's a really beautiful addition that we can talk about. And I've talked a little bit on this show about my experiences with plant medicine and just my conversation with my body. And you obviously sat in a meditation recently. Doesn't necessarily mean you use plant medicine. But let's talk about plant medicine because I know that it's something that you are familiar with and something that you're getting very familiar with. So dive in with me. How has plant medicine played a role in the work that you do?
Wow, I love this topic because I'm in training at the moment to become a psychedelic integration practitioner. And I really believe in the work with plant medicine as it can heal deep, deep traumas in our body. And equally, as much as I believe that we have the inner medicine, which is our breath within us, that can help us to remove so much trauma from our body. However, the expansion of our mind, body, and spirit, like there are in so many different layers that, like tapping into plant medicine, it brings a different perspective in this work. I have been working with plant medicine for a very long time, and I've had very positive experiences. I would say I've been able to heal my relationship with my father through plant
Mm,
medicine, and which was a very intense relationship all my life. You know, I was born and raised in Iran. I moved to the States when I was 20 years old, and I grew up in a suppressed community. And just having all these conflicts with my father and negative emotions and never understanding him and being so angry at him.
mm,
Plant medicine softened my heart. Plant medicine opened doors for me that I was able to understand him from a different lens and offering compassion and love in that space. And we have a great relationship now. And I'm really, really grateful for that. And even in my practice that I'm going through at the moment, this institute that I'm getting certified with is called Synthesis Institute. They're based in Norway. And the whole concept, the reason it really resonated with me is okay, so you use the plant medicine, and now what? Like you receive so much information, so many downloads, so many healing, and you go back to the, to the life that we have. And
people have a hard time to integrate back from that intense experience. And intense necessarily is not negative. It's just like there is so much emotions and experiences that shows up in that space. And when we go back to our life, we don't know what to do with all this information, how to hold space, how to process, how to be in that space of like, after the medicine. Sometimes people, when they're not practicing plant medicine in a safe environment, they don't have positive experiences. So plant medicine, it has different layers. Like, number one, who are you practicing it with? In what environment you're practicing with? Is integrity playing a role in that practice? Because I know so many people that they use plant medicine to party with. I know a lot of people that they're doing ceremonies in every corner of, like, their state or whatever, underground. And I know people that they really practice plant medicine in a space of ceremonial, intentional healing way, that they're tapping into a deeper layer of their being, and they're taking responsibility also for their healing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very beautiful when we are operating from a place of responsibility and ownership. We're surrendering to the wisdom of plant medicine. The plant medicine knows exactly where to go and what to release. Only if we are open to the work, we're ready to receive also. Because when there is resistance, plant medicine is not going to be able to do its own job. And
Right.
the intelligence of the medicine is unbelievable. The intelligence of the medicine is another thing that I'm really fascinated with. And the healing that happens in that space is really, really deep and beautiful. So I always, like, this is what I say: if all the politicians in the world were taking some mushrooms, we had no wars. We were all cuddling and hugging each other. It opens
Yeah,
up doors for
yeah,
forgiveness. We can forgive. What a
yeah,
profound, beautiful way to forgive. And
yeah,
people hold on to stories and resentments and sadness and sorrow and grief for years and years of their lives. And plant medicine, the message is love, kindness, release, connection, community. Like, it's so powerful. It's so powerful.
yeah, it absolutely is. And, Seppi, I am so excited because for those of you that don't know, oftentimes when I bring on a guest, we do an extended version of the show over on the YouTube channel, which is the Mad Love Your Life show on YouTube. So we are going to continue this conversation in our post interview. So for those of you that want to continue this conversation with us, you can head over there and that'll be posted a little bit later this week. And for those of you that want to find Seppi's contact information, her social media handles, they are in the show description under this video. And before we wrap the show, I want to let you know that Seppi has generously decided to give 2 lucky listeners a free gift today. And the first one is a 30-minute somatic session and a custom-made tea blend. So 2 of you will receive that. To enter, tell us what you loved about this episode over on Instagram at @TheMaryD, and we'll draw 2 lucky winners on next week's call. Also, I want to remind you all that registration is open for my signature program, the Mad Loveology Retreat, coming up June 20th through the 23rd. For more details, you can head over to maryd.com and use the code podcast, all in caps, for an $800 early bird discount off the retail ticket price. We are going to clear the cobwebs, release the beliefs that don't serve us, and intentionally call in and craft the next season of your life, creating a fully aligned roadmap to get you where you want to go. Join us back here next week, and we will see you at the same place, same time for another episode of the Mad Love Your Life show. And until next time, may abundance always walk beside you. May joy always go before you, and may love always guide you on your path. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. We air live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Bold Brave TV. We hope to see you back next week. For more ways to connect with my guests, content, programs, and retreats, just head over to www.maryd.com and subscribe. That's MARYDEE.com.